Well, now, for more on the significance on Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield's visit to Africa, Kwaku Nuamah, Professor of International Politics, American University, joins me live via Skype from Washington. Professor Nuamah, thanks for joining us. And first, can you kind of give us a sense of why you think this trip took the ambassador to the countries that it took her?
Well, thanks for having me, Vincent. I think that this trip is coming at a wonderful time. Africa needs to be constantly reminded that the United States cares about issues that matter to Africans. In terms of the choice of countries, you can clearly see that Ghana and Mozambique are on the list. These are countries that are on the United Nations Security Council, and the United States needs allies in the Security Council, especially as it tries to contain Russia and also possibly other countries that it is going to have to deal with. But then you see the trip to Somalia, which was not originally announced. That also is important because it reminds us that the United States has an interest in Africa's ongoing security issues and has made significant investments in those countries. And so some of this is routine, but we also see the offensive charm, the new promises that have been made, but also to follow up on things that were promised in December. Then there's also the defensive strategy to make sure that Russia and China do not have Africa to themselves.
And you talk about charm offensive. We see that, in fact, our trip overlapped with that of Janet Yellen. I mean, and then yesterday, or over the weekend, the Secretary of State actually stepped in Africa and Egypt. What should this tell us about the policy, or rather the strategy of President Biden at the moment?
It says that as the United States tries to deal with problems, particularly with Russia, Africa has become a very important player in the global game. And Africa is no longer to be taken for granted, and the United States has to go out and actually compete for Africa's affection. So that's good for African countries. We also have to keep in mind that, for Africans, we cannot wait to be asked to do what is right. We also have to step up and on our own do things that are good for the order of the global system. And so when we have these discussions with the United States, it shouldn't just be about what Americans want. It should be about what we also want, but also what our responsibilities are.
What do you think is the significance of the billions of dollars promised for the Horn of Africa, especially coming at this time?
I think the Horn of Africa is dealing with not just a security issue, but also a major humanitarian crisis. And then we have a major famine brewing in that area. So the United States stepping up and providing this help, it's very important. Part of that, so last year, for example, the American aid accounted for about 80% of what the global system promised Somalia. Without that assistance, people will be dying in Somalia. So that's important. This is something that the United States routinely does, and I don't think it gets enough credit for the good things it does in Africa. And so it's good that she's there. She's bringing attention to these issues, and also mobilizing the international community to step up to help. I listened to her speech in Mogadishu. It's a good speech, reminded everybody that we all have to step up and prevent the kind of calamities that we're seeing in the Horn of Africa.
Yeah, in few words, what should Africa do?
I think Africans should step up to the plate and be responsible members of the international community, help to preserve the collective security system, not because America is asking us to do so, but because it's in our own interest, but also to show the kind of responsible governance that many of us expect from our leaders. So I'm glad that, in Kenya, for example, she met with William Ruto, and we'll see what Ruto can do in that area in terms of governance and prosperity and investing in women and all the good stuff that they promised when they ran for office.
Appreciate very much, Professor Nuamah. That was Kwaku Nuamah, Professor of International Politics at the American University in Washington, speaking to us via Skype from D.C.